Welcome to another episode of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? And sometimes, what are you creating? And what are you painting? And I hope this is not the first time that you've been with us, but if it is, welcome, welcome. And those of you who are regulars or semi-regulars, welcome back. So glad you're here. I am your host, Karen E. Osborne, author of Getting It Right, Tangled Lives. Reckonings came out this summer, and my upcoming book, True Grace, comes out in September, which I'm super excited about. And I have a wonderful guest who also writes about strong, powerful women overcoming. Her name is Janis Robinson Daly. Hey, Janis.
Hey, Karen, thanks so much for having me on today.
Oh, I'm so delighted that you could join us. Really am. Um, this is a very special episode because this month, I hope you all know this, is National Women's History Month. And Janis is doing some interesting things to celebrate and highlight. And that's why we're airing this on the beginning of National Women's History Month. And so she's going to tell you all about it. She is the author of The Unlocked Path, and it's about a courageous woman who shapes her own destiny. And Janis is also curating a whole collection of titles about women you're going to want to meet through books. So let's get started. Janis, I am so excited that you're doing this, that you came up with this really cool idea. I'm really excited. So why don't you start telling us a little bit about your interest in historical women and in historical fiction, kind of how that all came about?
Sure. Well, I think I have to go back a few decades, not just years, decades, I guess, all the way to high school. And one of the books that I fell in love with in high school, believe it or not, was Gone with the Wind by Margaret
Mm.
Mitchell. And if anyone has read the book, not just seen the movie, of course, many of us have seen the movie, but the book goes a lot deeper into the character, fictional character, of course, of Scarlett O'Hara. And she was actually a very strong and brave woman, and her character arc through, I think the book is almost 900 pages, goes a lot deeper than what you see in the movie of, that Southern belle that opens up the pages of the book and the movie. And then she becomes a businesswoman through Reconstruction. And of course, what she goes through during the Civil War and finds hidden power and strength and courage that she never knew she had. So actually, my interest started way back then. And then over the years, I started to ask myself, well, what about the real women in history? Not the fictional characters, but who are the real women in history that had to overcome so much and whose stories really haven't been told?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you doing with that? Before we talk about the unlocked path, tell us about those women and their untold stories, and what's your plan there?
So we are very fortunate, I think, that in recent years there has been a more focus by authors and readers on finding those stories, finding those women who have languished in the shadows of history and whose accomplishments have gone unnoticed for so long. Never made it into the history books for us to learn about in school, never made it into the newspapers. But there are so many women that have done so much. And I felt like people love lists. I love lists. We
I
all
love lists.
learn to look to those bestseller lists or Reese Witherspoon's recommendation or Oprah's recommendations on books. So, how about a book list of biographical historical fiction of those women in history that we have never learned about? And luckily, their stories are now being told.
So give me an
So,
example. Give us some clues.
So a few clues. So I've come up with 31, which will be
Mhm.
one per day. Any speed readers out there, I'm challenging you now. Read one a day for the month of March. But hey, if you get through two or three, wouldn't that be wonderful to learn about some new women? Uh, so I'll give you a couple of quick examples off the top of my head, and some of them are probably on my bookshelf. Band of Sisters by Lauren Willig is about a group of Smith College graduates who go to France in World War One and serve in nursing capacity and taking care of soldiers and French citizens. So that's more of a collection of women that banded together and went to serve. Another one is probably, I think, my favorite that I came across, and my book club read it as a selection celebrating the 19th Amendment century a couple of years ago. And that is Madame Presidentes. And it's all about Victoria Woodhull, which, if you've never heard of Victoria Woodhull, see, there we go. She was a suffragist. She ran for president in 1872
Oh my goodness.
on Equal Rights Party. She didn't win. We would have known about that.
Yes.
But she was a power to be reckoned with.
Mm.
She had a lot of very progressive beliefs, free love being one of them,
Mm.
which of course didn't get her very far in the 1870s. Um, she went on with her sister to open one of the first women-owned stock brokerages in New York
Wow.
and would get stock tips from men in business by paying off women who worked in brothels. So she was pretty smart. Victoria
I
Woodhull,
love
an
this.
amazing woman. So those were a couple of examples. I like to make sure that we are looking at different authors, different cultures,
Yeah, so is it it's a diverse
possible,
list?
a diverse list of both authors and the women that we're looking at. Another personal favorite, and it was hard to pick just one, by Marie Benedict. Marie
Mm.
Benedict writes so many wonderful stories about women in history. But the one that I chose for my list for her was The Personal Librarian.
Yes.
That came out.
It's one of my
Marie Benedict
favorites.
and Christopher Murray co-wrote that about Belle DeCosta Green, who was the librarian to J.P. Morgan.
Yes,
You
that was an incredible book. Incredible is
know,
an incredible book.
yeah.
So for the list, are you putting like little blurbs under it so that people
Yeah,
can,
so it's going to have the covers, because top covers are important. Um, and then I'll have a little brochure that I'm sending out to libraries and bookstores across the country. I'm hoping the other authors who I mentioned will also kind of join with me and help get that list out. Um, and so it will have the name of the book, and then I've got a little cheat sheet that will go with it that will have the full listing of the title, the author, and then who is the book about.
oh,
Um,
I love this idea. This is so cool. I will be sure to share it far
oh,
and
great.
wide.
Wonderful. Thank you.
That's such a great idea. So at the end of our little conversation, all of you folks out there, Janice will tell you how you can find the list and find her and all of that. So not to worry, you just have to hang in with us and hear the rest of our conversation. That just sounds like a fabulous, fabulous idea. So tell us a little bit about your book, The Unlocked Path. What's the premise of it?
Sure. So the unlocked path is a couple of versions over my
Oh, don't
shoulder
do it
there.
so fast. Let's see it
Oh, we'll
again.
get back on there. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, oh, there we go. Uh, so the unlocked path is also about a collection of women, not just one, but women that went to the Women's Medical College of Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
So I was drawn to this story actually by doing genealogy research and found out that my great great grandfather in 1850 in Philadelphia was one of the founders of this medical school for women. Uh,
Wow.
so, here is a forward-thinking man in
Yeah.
Philadelphia. He was a judge. Before that, he was an abolitionist lawyer. So obviously a man that believed in the rights of others, defended almost every runaway slave that came through Philadelphia in the 1850s and won their cases.
Wow.
So, a forward-thinking man that got behind the rights of women that wanted to study medicine and were denied admission, of course, to all the other schools in the 1850s that were in existence. So the story is a little bit of a coming of age. I have a fictional composite character, Eliza Edwards, starting with her entering the school in 1897, going through her 4 years of study, her residency, and then early practice. And of course, she's surrounded by wonderful women. You know,
Yes.
her classmates, her teachers, her professors, her own family. She lives with her mother and aunts, so they all have an influence on her. And there are three women in the story that are inspired by real women graduates of the medical college. So when I had done my research and learned about them, Anna Gopal Joshi from India, Olga Pavinsky from Lithuania, and
Mm.
Charlotte Fairbanks from Vermont. They all came to Philadelphia to go to this medical school. And I was like, wow, I read a lot of historical fiction. I've never heard of these women. I've never heard of
Yeah.
women medical schools and what they accomplished in their, late 1800s, early 1900s. So
Oh, that
I
is so inspiring. That is so inspiring. That's wonderful. And so your protagonist is the composite
yeah.
young person. And do they meet a lot of obstacles?
Oh, well, of course. I mean, just getting into the school, they had to pass an entrance exam that they were told, and the research seems to prove this out, that the exam was harder than the male schools because they had to prove right from the get-go that they had the intellect and abilities to attend medical school. And then, of course, just going through, like any student today, going through medical school is a challenge into
It's
itself.
hard just by itself. Yes.
Right. And then even trying to find a job afterwards because the hospitals still wouldn't hire them, even though they had that accredited degree, or
Wow.
pharmacists wouldn't fill prescriptions written by them because they didn't see the validity of their signature on a prescription pad. So there was a lot of challenges, and making sure that patients realized I'm the doctor, not the nurse. I
Yes.
know what I'm doing. Yeah,
I know what I'm doing. Not that nurses don't know what they're doing.
right.
But we got your point. We totally got your point. Sounds really, really exciting and wonderful. Um, Tell us a little, when you think about women that you admire, women that you think about or admire, is there anyone whose name that you haven't mentioned yet that comes to mind?
Oh gosh. I I just probably want to say my own sister friends.
Mm,
Um,
mm.
I went to a women's college myself. So
Which
that's why
one?
I went to Wheaton College in
Oh,
Massachusetts.
yes.
It is now co-ed, but when I went
Yep.
decades ago, it was still all women.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I was also drawn to this story, because I had been surrounded for 4 years, of course, with incredible women in the classroom and professors, and we have remained very, very tight ever since. And I've even at reunions, met up with women that I didn't really know that well on campus, but we
Mm-hmm.
just had instant connection and be able to follow up with each other. And so I really salute the amazing accomplishments my own classmates have had
Mm.
in their lives and in their careers and chosen professions. From lawyers to dentists to, sales managers of international companies. early childhood educators, HR resource officers. Those are just a few of the incredible women that are out there every day doing remarkable things.
It's true. Women rock.
They do.
We're out
We
there
do.
changing the world, right? Out there changing the world. My historical fiction book is about a woman who wasn't very educated. And she was, as she said, she was taught how to do beautiful penmanship
Mm.
and how to make lace, but she
Oh,
wasn't taught, how to do anything. And she finds herself having to make a living for herself and her 5 kids. And in 1924, when being
sure.
a mixed race immigrant
Hmm.
in this country wasn't an easy. So we have extraordinary women in all walks of life,
Exactly.
right? All
Yeah.
walks of life. This is very, very exciting. So tell our audience how they can find you, how they can to enjoy this list. Are you having any contests or anything? If you read how many books you read, or
Oh, let's explore that idea for next year's list.
good.
Um, but yeah, I was thinking, could it be a fun bingo game? Like if you read X number, in a row or something, you get a prize. So yeah, we'll think about
Next
that
year. Yeah.
next year. Or if anybody wants to come up on their own, maybe I'll give away a gift card or something or a copy of a book. Um, but the list is on my website, which is Janis, Janis, R Daly, Daly.com. So it's right up in the top nav under my bookmarked section, women in history books. So, and I have a newsletter. You can sign up for my newsletter, comes out monthly. And if you want to make a suggestion for the 2024 list, I'm hoping to keep this going. And let's
Oh,
see if we can come up with another 31 titles by
isn't
20.
that a great idea? And of course, also on your website would be how to buy your book
Oh, sure,
and
absolutely.
and what
On
events you
Amazon,
are.
yeah. Go to any local independent bookstore, ask them to order it for you. Yeah, Barnes and Noble, indie bookshop. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, I want to thank you so much, Janice, for joining us. This is such an exciting project. I just love it, love it. And your book sounds intriguing and amazing. And I hope all of you have enjoyed this conversation and that you will be with us next week for the next episode of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? Goodbye, everybody, and thanks for being with us.